Now, on Talk of the Nation tonight, the campaign week has been eventful with disturbing scenes of police tear-gassing the NUP presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi and stopping him from accessing a hotel he had booked in Soroti City. We also witnessed the NRM candidate Yoweri Museveni telling the nation that people who harbor the idea cannot overwhelm armed forces. On the other hand, religious leaders who have for long been silent after incidents of soldiers beating up civilians during campaigns have finally come out to condemn the violence against civilians and to help digest these issues. I am joined by Mande Akol, a policy analyst. Good evening to you, Mande, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mildred. The pleasure is mine joining you on this show.
Thank you. So starting with, following the recent campaign scenes, I'm sure you have been following that have rather been very disturbing. We would like to pick your mind from an analytical standpoint. What do these scenes tell us about the state of the country's political environment currently?
Yeah, of course, they point to the fact that elections and campaigns are heating up. Whenever campaigns are heating up, definitely there are tensions and out of panic, excitement, some people will make mistakes here and there, and that's why we're seeing the violence coming up. So
the police tear-gassing the National Unity Platform candidate and blocking him from entering his hotel is an act of excitement?
No, that can be it's an act of panic. It's where there is panic, definitely mistakes are bound to be made. But ideally, we expect that the police should guard law and order, should keep law and order, and create such an environment that is conducive for everybody who is participating in elections to actually campaign and reach out to their voters, because ideally it is a national exercise, it's a legal exercise we are having. Therefore, every presidential candidate, or even parliamentary candidate for that matter, is supposed to be protected. It's supposed to be protected, and therefore they have to work well with the security organs. So the security personnel should be seen to be fair, so that people can reach out to their voters, campaign, and then it is up to the voters to decide who they will vote come 15th January. Yes.
And we have seen the candidate in question actually calling out, for help, for intervention from the Electoral Commission, from whoever is concerned. And now the criticism has been, towards the religious leaders for them being quiet in situations like this. But finally, they came out and spoke and condemned the violences, and would like to know, is this message or their voice, does it have any impact in changing the situation as it is?
Yeah, religious leaders are always the voice of reason, the voice of equity in society. But at times we may think that they are quiet when actually they are engaging behind the scenes. Because normally, whenever something happens, the religious leaders will always engage behind the scenes. Maybe by the time they come out to speak, the situation has gone maybe overboard. But that is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that perhaps they could, if they could be silent out of fear. It happens.
Out of fear?
Yeah, out of fear, because when you really, it can happen out of fear. They can, out of fear, and they may decide not to keep quiet. The other reason maybe could be, they could be compromised. So the other...
When you say compromised, what do you mean?
No, at times you find that a religious person may not speak out on a vice. Perhaps they have been compromised. They've got favors from a particular candidate, and therefore they're not going to speak against a candidate.
But lately we've seen them also being, victim of the same things that we are seeing happening with the recent incident of the Catholic father from Masaka, that is Father Deus Dedit.
Yeah, that's why I said the fear now at times, because
of acts like that.
That creates fear, because you see, you saw what happened in DRC Congo, when actually Kabila was trying to cling on to power. He didn't want to have an election, and the Catholic Church came out strongly to really to oppose him. So most of the religious leaders were hurt in that. When you go to South Africa, the likes of the Desmond Tutu are just few, but the majority of them actually went silent. But so that could be the fear. But I'm not saying it's the case. But I'm just giving scenarios that it could be out of fear. it could be out of being compromised, or it could be out of abdicating their role as the voice of reason. So those are possible reasons why religious leaders would actually keep quiet. But what normally happens is that when we think that they're keeping quiet, they are actually engaging the various players behind the scenes. Just like you saw in Nigeria in 2015, the Goodluck, Johnson and Buhari context. You see, the religious leaders behind the scenes really worked hard to ensure that General Buhari and Professor Goodluck Johnson signed a peace deal before election.
But I want us to bring it back here in Uganda. I like how you are citing other countries. I say for Uganda, like historically, do we have any examples or where the religious voice has actually turned around events when incidences like this happen?
Yes. Religious leaders have played a role in the politics of this country. That's why they are well organized. They have structures. That is why we have the Interreligious Council, and at every election they have had a role to play. Yes.
Okay. And so now, as we continue looking at the political environment in the country, the NRM candidate Yoweri Museveni, who is also the incumbent president, recently made a statement that civilians should not dare challenge soldiers because they have an average of 120 bullets each. What do you make of such statements, especially those that are coming from the Fountain of Honor, who ideally is supposed to oversee the safety of civilians?
Yeah, definitely that is one of them, because it's cautioning them. And because when you attack a soldier, you are definitely attacking the state. So he's trying to caution that no matter our politics, we should not think of attacking people in uniform, because ideally they are there to guide us. Because there's always the temptation of people out of anger thinking that they can attack military installations. But
this comes off as intimidation.
No, it may sound as intimidation, but also on the other hand, it is cautioning the people, because as the Fountain of Honor, as the commander-in-chief, definitely, much as the presidential candidate, needs to caution the people so that they can behave responsibly. Okay.
Yes. Now, this statement that the president made also came after his son, that is Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is also the chief of the Defense Forces, said and reiterate or made it clear that voters should not dare stay near the polling stations after casting their votes, something which of course contravenes with the electoral laws that clearly stipulates that voters can stand 20 meters away from the polling centers. And would like to know, why is it that the military is insisting so much in having the voters away from the polling stations? Because this is raising suspicions among the electorate.
Yeah, it raises suspicions, that's very true, among the electorate, because ideally the law was crafted in such a way for transparency, so that at the end of the day, you know, so and so has won this polling station. But at times, the security knows what we don't know, where they feel that perhaps the voters, the process could be jeopardized by external forces or by bad elements. They definitely can come up with such provisions, because ideally, when there was insurgency in the north, you'd see that at times people were not allowed to stay at the polling stations. They would vote and go home, where actually the security feels that there could be a threat to human lives and property. Then they can come up with such measures, and they can come up with such guidelines to guide the people, just like we had the pandemic. Yes, we had the pandemic, and everybody understood that we had really pandemic after voting. You don't need to crowd. So this also can come up. Maybe they could have intelligence that there is a foreign power that perhaps wants to exploit the political tensions to cause havoc in the country, and therefore they can advise in that way. But then, so what then does this, what impact does it have to the voter? Do you think it will affect future civic engagements? And also just the voter could interpret it as them being underlooked. I mean, they do not have any other role aside from only casting the ballot. No, I think in this particular situation where the army has come up with such guidelines, the electoral commission should come out clear to put up alternative measures so that people are satisfied that the voting and the counting is transparent. Because ideally, why people stay 2 or 20 meters at the polling stations after voting is to ensure transparency, that they know so and so has won at this polling station. So where they are not going to be, the Electoral Commission needs to come up with a system that is going to create confidence in the voters that much as we are not there, but so and so won at this particular polling station.
Now, still talking about the Electoral Commission, yesterday candidate Joseph Mabirizi told journalists that the Conservative Party, as we conclude this conversation, is considering withdrawing from the race if the long-awaited electoral reforms are not properly implemented. And so what does this mean for the entire process? We are left, what, 26 days to voting, and some candidates are already threatening to withdraw from the race.
Now, Mabirizi has always been a person with a lot of comedies, I would say, because ideally he entered into the race knowing that some of the reforms are tabled were really not, were not addressed. I think he should have boycotted from the word go. Just like we saw in Tanzania, Tundu Lissu said no reforms, no elections, and he stuck to his word. They didn't participate. So, but where you say where you are halfway and you cannot pull a crowd of even 20 people, and you say you're withdrawing, I think somebody will look at it as a defeatist kind of argument.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mande Akol Amazima, a policy analyst, helping us to spotlight the current political climate as it is in the country. And with that, we take a break. When we return, we'll be hearing from the world of sport.